I'm Shiv Iyer, founder and CEO of MinervaDB and Chester Data. So these are the two data platform companies based out of the Bay Area in the business. Both companies are in business over 10 years now. So we are solving the data problems for enterprises and large internet companies. So here today, I'm talking about how data has been impacting on the business, the large enterprises to the consumers, right? How data is influencing. Once used to influence only on the business process transactions, and today, if you're looking at data influence every day of our life, right? So today I'm talking about how all began. So it all started in 70s, early 70s, where computers have been very widely used exclusively in banks and airline operations at the enterprise level. So the challenge for the business executives was like, hey, how all these large airlines and banks executives can update the general ledgers without chaos, right? So that's when Edgar Code came with, hey, there can be a much better way for building data platforms, which is also building data durable, right? The birth of the asset compliance, which is the first of its term, like how the data and transactions can remain atomic, consistent, isolated, and durable, right? So this was the birth of database systems. And this is triggering the entire data economy, right? How data started influencing economy, right? Started with banks, airlines, moved to the telecommunications, retail, healthcare. So then you see there is a disruption happening. The first 10 years was all about building relational database systems, transaction computing systems. That was the birth of companies like Oracle, Sybase, and several transaction processing systems. So by 80s, the data being generated by all these transaction processing systems are being more, looking at beyond transaction processing, like how we can go for a business decisions influence with data, right? So it's about now how the data will decide the action plan, forward-looking guidance for the business, right? That was actually the birth of all-app computing, right? No, analytical processing systems, right? And that was the birth of the companies like Teradata and several all-app databases like DB2, Sybase. Most of those 80s to 90s database systems focus was like, hey, look, we can help you in business intelligence, right? But in 90s, the internet exploded, and so is data, right? I would always say that there've been three major innovations happen in the world of computing. One was like internet. Then that was in the 90s, and that brought in so much of data. Like the new economies like the Amazons and PayPal's and all these companies, right? They're like eBay, PayPal's, and Google, Yahoo, right? AOL. So all these companies are started generating more and more of data. And the use case of data also changed, like from traditional transaction processing to people started, using data for the consumer internet economy, for consumer internet commerce, internet search engines, the generation one internet gaming companies, right? So this was actually giving birth for more modern open source databases because the amount of data generated by internet companies were really big, was really large actually, which was very expensive to be accommodated on the early stage database systems companies like Oracle and Microsoft SQL Server and DB2. So that was giving birth for the open source database systems companies like MySQL and the birth of PostgreSQL, right? Now, if you look at from 2000 to 2020, the last 20 years have been like the velocity and the volume of data generated by human and machines and devices, right? Like today, if you look at the wearables generate a lot of time series data, the computing has been more connected, is more sticky to the consumers, like the smartphones and the data-centric apps like, say, your WhatsApp, your Facebook, your LinkedIn. So if you look at in the last 20 years, if you look at it is the datafication of technologies, right? Like right from the smartwatches, what you and me wear, right, to our iPhone, to our travel, to everything is data influenced today, right? And by the way, now today, if you look at, we have different data points in the business, right? transaction processing systems, they are not disappeared anywhere, right? Analytics, the decision making even today is working on analytical processing databases. But this is not just limited to these two technology stack, right? Today, if you look at, we have very large content delivery networks like the gaming, right? These systems use more of an eventually consistent systems because they are not transaction processing computers. They are all about, like accommodating planet scale data ingestions, right? Data insertions, right? Like, so this could be your game score, your variable, generating data of your activities, could be your run, your swim, your cycling, everything, right? So if you look at, we never need now today for internet scale data platforms, we don't need a traditional transaction computing system. We need the systems which are basically available because the data velocity of ingestion is very high and the volume is also very high, right? And basically this data need to be available. Imagine like when I start my day, I check my messages, I look at all my, operations, like it could be my check my LinkedIn, check my tweets, everything. So imagine when I wake up and I don't see this data, this could be very, very chaotic for my life because my morning starts with, hey, what's happening? I know like how my customers are reacting to our releases or our work, what we have been delivering for them. So as a matter of fact, like today, if you look at everything is on the datafication of the life, actually, right? So is the database systems. Like today, if you see that I have caching, like my entire data infrastructure has a caching layer which makes your reads and writes faster, right? Because like I said, like I have my watch today generating a lot of data, my phone generate more data, right? And so I'm so well connected today. My watch is connected to my phone is connected to my computer, right? So when you are looking at data orchestrated economy or data orchestrated lifestyle, where my entire life, all the 24 hours is data influence, the dynamicity in the data operated infrastructure also changed. So when I'm looking at the last 50 years from 1970 to 2020, I would say that last 20 years have been the most, the phase of the transformation happened, right? Like we talked about big data. Nobody talked about big data 20 years back, right? So 20 years back, the big data is like 10 terabytes or 25 terabytes of data used to be a very big data in early 2000. And today that is the volume of data generated by some of the largest internet companies. Nobody was worried about observability and monitoring because like we always used to have a maintenance window where like, hey, I work as a data infrastructure operations guy or data site reliability engineer of a large telecom operator. So I always had the late nights, early mornings, and all my maintenance window. But that is impossible today because today my business operates 24/7, 365, right? Like that means that my customers from some part of the world are accessing my data. And this data is what leading them. While we work with some of the companies like Netflix and National Geographic and all this kind of large internet consumer, internet, entertainment business, right? So the outage is not something, acceptable, right? Even from the end user SLA perspective, right? So today, if you look at, we worry about distributed, redundant, fault-tolerant, self-healing systems, which need to be highly secure, right? The standardization of data security has changed, right? Every LAN today got their own data privacy, data security policies. So I would say like how data is enabling the lifestyle, right, of people, right? This could be for enterprises, large business processing, business decisions, to entertainment for the consumers, the simplicity of life. Like today, I book my vehicle with my phone. I do the transactions of my bank with my phone. I shop on my phone. I message on my phone. I share my location, I share my experience, everything on the phone. So if you look at how the data has been today distributed across, actually, with maximum availability infrastructure built across the data stack, is changing how people move, right? Now, when you talk about the AI, like AI is the what you read, what you get out of your AI is only as good as what is the data in your catalog data infrastructure, or the vector query data infrastructure, right? So how the AI inference layer have been creating the catalog repository infrastructure on a vectorized query compute models, right? So we are now looking at like creating the vector definitions of data generated by or created by the human, right? And the vectorized query compute engine and how they influence on in the large LLMs, right? So while what we really find very excited about in this entire transformation is like we have seen the wave, right? The wave happening right from transaction computing, analytics, columnar databases where we talk about real-time analytics. Like I today get recommendations from my Netflix on the movies on my phone is completely different from what I get my iPad to my computer to my Apple TV, right? This could be on any device. I'm just telling the name of devices what I see around. But then if you look at how these real-time analytics infrastructure is been guiding me, be it to the entertainment, to my transport, to my air ticket booking, to my accommodations, everything, right? To what I'm seeing today is how the data, ultra low latency query computing infrastructure, caching technologies, to the AI inference platform on the catalog data infrastructure. So what I'm seeing in the future is like how data is going to influence on the human replaced computing platform, autonomous life, right? Like how the autonomous vehicles and autonomous machines are going to simplify our life, right? And how the vector query model, the dynamic vector query models created on autonomous data infrastructure for autonomous life of us, right? And this is what is going to be very like exciting thing to witness, actually, right? And we are talking about high performance, massive planet scale, uh, fully fault tolerant, self-healing, secure database infrastructure, right? And this times is most exciting, right? Like I would say, the wave of the wave is what we are seeing now, right? Like I was saying in the beginning, right? 1990s was the biggest disruption, like the invention of a browser, right? Like invention of the browser was the biggest disruption, right? That gave birth for Amazons and eBay and several internet companies, including Google, right? And mid 2000 was the next big wave with App Store and Android, right? Like that gave birth for companies like WhatsApp, Instagram, many other, Airbnb, all those modern internet stack companies. And now, after 20 years, right, after 15 years, right, you are seeing the big one is about AI, right? And what is common in all these things, right, from 1970s to now and beyond in the future is data, right? The data generation, interpretation, and cataloging and inferencing. So this is going to be the most exciting time. While I talk to most of the CTOs today, what we discuss about is about how we can use data across their business services to improve and influence both the internal and external customer portfolio, right? So it looks bright. Exciting times. Looking, like I said, the most exciting times are going to be the next 5 years. Like how the data is influencing the life and beyond. Right. Thank you. Thanks. It's been a great opportunity to talk with all of you. Thank you.